In that time, our world has taken so many steps in the wrong direction. In the negative utopia, science, technology, social organization, dehumanization. In the negative utopia, science, technology, social organization.
Welcome to the Real Zagami Show, April 27, 2024. Leo and Christy Zagami. Christy, what's up?
Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Technology, social organization, dehumanization.
Vincenzo Viceversa for this great tune and for the visuals. We also like to thank our friend TelePandemia Albert. So convinced about the light.
In the negative utopia, technology, social organization.
Welcome to the Real Zagami Show, Leo and Christy Zagami.
Hi, everyone.
Cicada, salad, and insect witchcraft. What a menu for today's show, but we have also much more. I don't see you very convinced. So here we go. Remember, the first part of the show is on YouTube. The second part of the show is only on X and Rumble. That's special content that will be, of course, censored on YouTube. So we have decided to split the show in two. It's been working for my Italian audience. We're gonna be testing it more for you. We did it also last week, you know?
Yeah.
It worked out. So here we are with a new show, a lot of news. It's been a week filled with news, but also with this constant thing about cicadas, eating cicadas, even on pizzas.
Yeah.
I've been talking about this whole obsession by the New World Order of forcing us into eating insects. And so that's going to be a subject we're definitely going to be discussing. First of all, let's thank our sponsors for today. Christy, who are our sponsors?
Margaret Zadaminsa and Bruce Kodish, thank you very much for your donations. And thank you to everybody who bought the book this week. It was a really good week. So thank you. I think we got a lot of rumblers on there.
Rumblers, we have at the
Didn't
moment.
have your book, so.
Well, we have a few rumblers, not that many. I must say that last week we had also a lot of people who were following us on X. Now, please share, because I see that you're starting to tune in from X. I see that you are also tuning in from Rumble. So altogether, this show has at least a decent outcome in its live version. We're gonna be, of course, then replicating this show on Band.video, on Telegram, and on BitChute. There is certain countries, Christy, where X and Rumble actually is censored. I find it very strange because, like I said earlier in my Italian show, Rumble is one of the only American platforms that actually gives the possibility to Russia Today, which is a state-owned company, to broadcast, but then they don't permit Rumble to be broadcast in Russia. That's a little bit of an hypocrisy, but for those Russians interested in following us, of course, the second part of the show, it's on Telegram, and then we're gonna be also uploading it on BitChute. So we're gonna be uploading it on both Telegram, BitChute, and Band.video. So we have a lot of platforms here, guys, and of course we have a lot to say about the subject of today. But first of all, why is being so strong this forceful propaganda about eating cicadas? I got on my nerves this week. I mean, wherever you went, you will find simply cicadas and more cicadas. So let's go and check what it's all about. The crunchy delicacy. Delicacy? Yes.
Ew.
Unusual entry from the culinary corner tonight. It has to do with the billions of cicadas that have begun emerging from the ground in some parts of the country. And while many of us would rather tell them to bug off, others are saying bon appetit. Newswatch 16's Carrie Kearns has more on the chaos turned cuisine in Louisiana.
It's pretty horror. It's pretty horror. It's very appropriate to see.
We don't mean poltergeist. We're talking cicadas. Billions of them have invaded parts of the country. And if you can't beat them, eat them.
Every culture has things that they love to eat and maybe things that are taboo or things that people just sort of wrinkle their nose and frown their brow at. And there's no reason to do that with insects.
Zach Lehman is the curator of animal collections at Audubon Insectarium in New Orleans. On the menu at the in-house snack bar here, there are Southwest waxworms with chili powder, crispy Cajun crickets, and for a limited time...
Cicadas aren't usually on the menu because most of the world's cicadas don't take 13 or 17 years to develop like these and emerge by the millions. They are here and there.
So while they're here...
Usually plop cicadas down into the flour, and then I'll mix them in the flour.
You can fry them.
There we go. That's everybody.
Or...
is season them in the hand.
Bake the little buggers. You can even toss them in a salad.
So we do different dishes that are savory, that are sweet. I like to tell people if it's coming from a New Orleans kitchen, even if it's bizarre, it's going to be tasty.
But before you take a bite, just be aware, if you're allergic to shellfish, you should not eat cicadas because the FDA says they're related to shrimp and can cause a reaction. Carrie Kearns, Newswatch 16.
Oh, I don't like watching that frying in the pan. It's so gross. Ew.
Christy, please read an extract from my book, which is basically entitled 7 Steps to the Secrets of the New World Disorder, and it's actually very appropriate. From transhumanism and immortality to Gnostic Jesus, UFOs, and ultimately insect witchcraft. So their obsession with us eating these insects is based on a variety of...
Sorry, I was just making gross motions.
Yes. On a variety of ways for us to basically be subject more and more to this insanity that has though a purpose. It's a sick purpose, a twisted purpose, but I will try to make you understand it today. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show. For those people who want to support us, I want to remind everybody, because guys, we don't have any other sponsors than you. And so it's very important to remind our viewers that you are our sponsors. If you would like to sponsor us, you have GoFundMe, you have Cash App.
Yeah, we're at the end of the month, guys. So I know you guys are too, but
yeah, well, of course. But remember,
we have another month, ahead of us. So
another month ahead of us, and we will be starting very soon with some more exploration into the Illuminati, into the occult side of the Illuminati, with the publication of my latest book, which is coming soon. It's volume 10 of my confessions. Let me tell you the title here, because it's a brand new book and I still have to memorize it myself. I mean, I'm the author, but I'm kind of getting used to it.
Your titles or subtitles are long.
Islamic Freemasonry and the secret societies behind the eternal conflict in the Middle East. This book, I warn you, is going to be an eye-opener like no other book you ever read. So be ready to have your world turned upside down by a book. It can be possible. And I tell you, this new book that is upcoming, it's one of those. But at the moment, we have volume 9, and volume 9 still is a very relevant book, a very important book, which talks about this subject. Like I said, this week has been a constant reminder that cicadas are edible, that cicadas are crunchy, that cicadas can be cooked in a variety of ways.
Like the beautiful 17-year-old cicada nymphs, I thought I'd compliment them with seasonal spring ingredients like asparagus and peas. Look at that butter. The chili and garlic add wonderful depth to the savoriness, the creaminess of the butter is just perfect, and the mint is the perfect foil to bring everything together. Wait, hold your breath. Happy spring, everybody! Do you think you'd enjoy this dish as much as I did? I like the
don't highlight them anymore.
I'm getting sick on this show.
Okay, here a citation from my book.
Okay, from this part.
Yes.
Okay, insects and the curse in the Codex Alimentarius. Insects are a curse for humanity, not our future food, and they could easily get out of control and damage our crops with the increased presence of insect farming all over the world, as we haven't industrially farmed insects before. There's a whole new world disorder of evolving issues to take into account, including viruses, bacteria, and fungi, which become prevalent and strong within the insect colonies.
I want to block you here. I want to block you in this passage here, but remember, I'm gonna make you pick you up again from that moment.
I was in the middle of a sentence.
You were in the middle of a sentence, but that is actually very appropriate to specify that these cicadas, these billions of cicadas, have a sickness. They have a fungi. They are actually these trillions of cicadas that are emerging. They're not so pure as you all think. And even
we don't think they're pure.
Well, for those people who are proposing them here as a culinary prelibacy, they must think they are good, or at least they are acceptable. I'm not saying. I'm saying here a danger to our health, because a fungus that grows on these cicadas makes them really dangerous for us. And the trillions of cicadas that are emerging this spring have this fungus. So let's go and see. The cicadas aren't expected. They are converging, and it's of course an exceptional moment. They are saying how, but let's read this part here, Christy. This part here.
Some of the cicadas,
however you want to
cicadas,
yes.
however, may have come in contact with fungal pathogen called Massosporia,
Masphora cicadina. This is Latin. So
which makes them hypersexual. The sexually
the
transmitted
sexually transmitted
fungal infection turns them into so-called zombie cicadas
Yes.
with a chalky white plug erupting out of their bodies and making their genitals fall off. Oh my God. Cicada expert Matthew Gasson says it's not yet clear how the fungus impacts other wildlife, animals, or humans.
But they want us to eat this bullshit.
I'm not feeling very good.
The cicadas.
The cicadas continue to participate in normal activities like it would as if it was healthy. Kaysen, an associate professor of mycology and forest pathology at West Virginia University, told CBS News, like it tries to mate, it flies around, it walks on plants, yet a third of its body has been replaced by fungus. That's really kind of bizarre.
And it's kind of disgusting.
Yeah, really.
So let's go and check CBS News and what they're saying about the arrival of trillions of cicadas. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show, wherever you are watching us, on whatever platform you're watching us. Remember, our show is trying to give you something the other shows don't focus on. So our analysis is a little bit different, is a little bit original and unusual, of course. And what we're talking here is at the center also of my latest book, Volume 9. Of course, soon it's going to be replaced as my latest book by Volume 10. But at the moment, Volume 9 is also a very important book because it's the only book of my series, one of the only books, let's say, because I think you can also read Volume 8 aside, on its own. Yeah, so Volume 9 you can read on its own. You don't have to purchase the prior volumes to understand it. And let's go to this report that came out yesterday on CBS about these cicadas.
In some parts of the country after laying dormant for more than a decade. The collective noise from the insects can be as loud as a jet engine. It is so loud that some residents in South Carolina call the police. Cicadas are also beginning to come out in Illinois, which will see two broods co-emerge for the first time in 200 years. For more on the cicada emergence, we're joined by Jonathan L. Larson. He is an extension entomologist at the University of Kentucky. Thanks for joining us. So we warned people that this was happening, but either they weren't paying attention to the news or they had no idea it was going to be this bad. But what are people experiencing now that these two broods are emerging?
We have so many bugs just coming up out of the ground. It really is amazing to see and hear. I do know that it startles some people. The noise level can be quite loud. It's not necessary to involve the police, though. They'll be out here in a few weeks, hopefully by the end of June, and you won't have to experience it anymore. And they've been waiting 13 or 17 years to get above ground. They don't want to spend this precious time that they have in a jail cell.
So what are the similarities or differences between the two broods, I guess? How do you know they're two different broods?
So we know that these are two different broods because one group that's emerging sort of concentrated in the Illinois and Wisconsin.
Is a little bit screwed, I think, but doesn't matter.
So they've been waiting 17 years to do this. That's three different species, and they have some visual and auditory things that that make up their body that help us to differentiate them from the 13-year cicadas, which are a part of the Great Southern Brood, which is going to be emerging across much of the southeastern United States.
I just can't get over the word brood, because I think brood, I think hordes, like the Great Southern Brood. It's just like an invading military or something. How do they know? How do they know when to emerge, these broods?
That's a great question. So when they're underground, they're nymphal cicadas, so they're baby cicadas. And they're counting kind of the ebb and the flow of their food resource, the tree sap that they suck out of the tree roots. And they log that. I don't want to make it sound like they actually count, but after a certain number of those instances, it's a cue in their brains that tells them it's time to come up. They do miscount. We have some that rise up early, at least a year, and we have some that they miscount and they're late, up to 3 years late even.
Wow. You mentioned that they drink tree sap. And, often when we see like a bunch of insects kind of descending on us, we're usually warned, your gardens may be impacting your trees, protect your trees. You don't often hear that about cicadas. When you have these many cicadas out feeding, does that not have an impact on the environment or on the foliage?
Luckily, as adults, they don't eat very much. They do most of their eating as immatures below ground. And when they come above ground, they're really only looking to do a couple of things. The males are looking to sing, and the singing is to attract females. I often joke it's kind of the world's darkest Mardi Gras because it's just a bunch of singing and other things and then dying. There's going to be bugs. So it's not about eating when they come above ground, and that's one of the reasons that we don't consider them major pests. They're females when they lay their eggs. There can be some problems. They can cause the twigs to break in certain trees, and that can be problematic for fruit growers. But we just wrap nets around those trees and end up protecting.
Singing, mating, and dying. They're going out with a bang. No pun intended, Jonathan. Jonathan Larson.
Well, this was to understand a little bit more what we're dealing with. I remember arriving here the first year in Palm Springs.
Oh my God, I wrote about it in my book. I thought they were locusts.
No, I mean, we thought that they were indigenous, that they were something that happened every year. It was actually an extraordinary passage that happens only every number of years, but they had invaded everywhere, and you could hear these things constantly. And I had a couple of encounters that were not that great.
They dive bombed his head when he went out the door. I mean, because there's a light above our thing, and at night they're attracted to the light. So he would go and take Rambo out and
Now, another time instead, I was walking with Rambo next to a bush, and I had one jumping on me. And another time, I was simply smoking, and suddenly jumped. One of these things jumped on me. I was smoking a joint. Yes, I have to confess.
You weren't in the house, though.
Yeah, but it jumped on me. They must have enjoyed maybe the waft of ganja. In any case, that was the first year I arrived here. It was really incredible to see their bodies, like when they leave these bodies.
I see them in the
they
laundry
died,
room.
and then they died in the wards, and they leave the remains. And
it's disgusting.
I mean, I don't know. It was pretty disgusting.
I'm really sick
but I can't imagine people actually wanting you to eat them, especially when we have just shown you the dangers that could be associated with eating something that has a fungal pathogen. So let's continue with reading what I have written in volume 9 of my confessions.
There's a whole new world disorder of evolving issues to take into account, including viruses, bacteria, fungi, which become prevalent and strong within the insect colonies, all farmed together in extremely close proximity, from which new treatments will need to be continuously created to ensure said insects are still remotely safe to eat. Remember, different kinds of bacteria that are known to make people sick have been found in insects, including E. coli and Campylobacter. In addition to these bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungi are also possible forms of biological contamination. Maybe we should be acting like Reagan in Exorcist 2 when she banishes the locusts and the powerful demon Pazuzu by enacting an ancient bull roarer. Or we preferably reject this diet and pray to God to deliver us from this growing evil. Yes.
This is volume 9 of my confessions, which, by the way, talks also about other things that regard this fixation that they are trying. And I mean, it was all over the news this week. It was ended up on.
And they cooked them every single way you can think of. I mean, I saw them fried. I didn't see any. Oh, anyway, I can't do it.
The
I
Louisiana,
can't even talk about it. Cajun cicada or something.
Seem to be, they seem to be very much into it in Louisiana. In fact, they were going all over the place, instructing people on how to eat these cicadas. How we call them?
Yeah, whatever.
Cicadas. Okay, but would you like really cicada salad
or pizza?
Pizza.
When you come to Audubon Insectarium, you'll get to see 50 live animal exhibits. We have a beautiful butterfly garden with hundreds of flying butterflies overlooking the river. And
the bug heaven, but is it really bug heaven or is it bug hell?
Hell.
So here we are with an understanding that in the tradition of ancient Japan and ancient China, these kind of insects were all put in a jar, made to fight with each other, and out of the surviving insects, I mean the most vicious and poisonous, probably they created a poison. Here we have in my journey, in step 3 of my journey, volume 7 of my confession, a description of what American nutritionist Victor Linder, because I mean, I'm not the only one who sees them as diabolic. There were actually people who were expert nutritionists who saw these insects as being really diabolic. So, Christy, would you like to read here a little bit about a concept? Because we are what we eat.
Yeah.
And this is something, I mean, we are what we eat is actually a saying that emerged, I think, in Germany, and also, if I don't get it wrong, maybe later on, yes, in America, through the 1923 edition of the Bridgeport Telegraph and an article by this guy, Victor Lindfar, in which basically he was saying 90% of the diseases known to man are caused by cheap foodstuff. You are what you eat. That was what the media used to say to us 100 years ago, exactly 100 years ago. And now, after 100 years, after Victor Linder coined this, popularized this expression that, like I said, originally might have come from Germany and then also from France. Antin Brillat-Savarin also used this expression, but then was launched worldwide by this American nutritionist. And at this point, I would like to mention also the fact that this "we are what we eat" is also a religious thing. When we talk about I can't really spell it.
What?
This I can't really spell it.
Transubstantiation.
Yeah, it is basically the phrase. If you are a Catholic, when you eat the Eucharist, you are basically partaking of the blood of Christ, no, symbolically and everything else. Imagine if that Eucharist was made of insect flour just for a moment. I mean, it's just so sick that we are willing to even think about this idea. The secrets of Koduko. Koduko is a type of poisonous magic I mentioned just a moment ago in Japanese folklore, derives from China. In Chinese, it was known as Gu magic. And basically, the earliest records of this kind of magic are from oral, from thousands of years ago. So the insects were collected. The larger ones were snakes, which is not an insect, but it was included in the whole thing. Then you had the various lice placed inside with them. You have other kinds of insects, scorpions, all kinds of things. They were all put together. It was kind of like they were mixed up. And so eventually we'll create the insects in a jar, will kill one another until only one survives. The fluids of the insects that survive will be used to poison an individual with a curse that will control them, cause them misfortune, or kill them.
I think somebody wrote that in the chat.
Yes.
Mind control bugs.
A mind controls kind of, but that is really what they're trying to do here. They're trying to convince us that we need to eat these bugs, while they, of course, will probably
filet mignon.
Well, yeah, caviar or whatever they like, because they are forcing us to eat something, because then we are resembling that something that we eat, and we become insects in their eyes. The god of the insects, the god of the locust, Apollos, it's also connected.
I'll starve first. I won't eat any bugs.
But
I'll eat a leaf.
If you can read this, Insects and Witchcraft, written by Henry Bishop Weiss, who was one entomologist. This part here.
Insects and Witchcraft, written by Harry Bischoff Weiss, 1883 to 1972, who was an entomologist at New Jersey Department of Agriculture for 44 years, retiring as director of Division of Plant Industry, that shows us even further the magical nature of insects and their use in the occult. In his professional role, Weiss was known for combating the Japanese beetle after discovering its presence in the United States, for working to counter other pests such as the gypsy moth. He wrote extensively on entomology and other broader scientific topics. He was the president of the American Association for Entomologists and associate editor of the Journal of Economic Entomology, as well as president and editor of other related societies and journals. He received the designation of Honorary Doctor of Science from Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, as well as other awards in agriculture and entomology.
This free, no, good for him. But let's see what he says, because it's very important.
Okay, well, he's a pretty smart guy. Weiss opens the article in question, published in 1930 by the Journal of the New York Entomological Society, with a citation from Compendium Maleficarum, a witch hunter's manual written in Latin by Francesco Mario Guazzo and published in Milan, present-day Italy, in 1608. Is one of the obligations that witches owe to the devil that, when they assemble at the Sabbath, they must show that they have wrought some fresh evil since the last meeting, and if they cannot do, they escape with impunity, and that may not be able to plead ignorance as an excuse. Their evil master instructs them in all their activities which he demands from them, as in infesting the trees and fruits with locusts, caterpillars, slugs, butterflies, cankerworms, and such pestilent vermin which devour everything, seed, leaves, and fruit, or in bewitching cattle, or in casting a spell on the crops so that they are destroyed by leeches, or wasted in some way, or in the use of poisons, and in working as far as in them lies for the destruction of the whole human race. For all this we know from their confessions. So wrote Brother Francesco Mario Guazzo in 1608 in chapter 8 of his Compendium Maleficarum.
Compendium Maleficarum is a book that, like the Malleus Maleficarum, are almost like guides that came out in a period in which there was, of course, the famous witch hunts, and in which a lot of people were sent on the stake for their practices, black magic and so on. So it is a controversial book, but Francesco Maria Guazzo is focusing on the fact that the insects were used to infest the trees, the fruits, and everything else. So they have never been a good thing. And also there is another specificity that something specific that I would like to take from my book. The fact that the god Apollo was known as Parnopion, the god of the locust, and he had this statue in the Acropolis in Athens, and he is also seen by the Illuminati as the ideal figure that will manifest as the Antichrist in the end times. It's also known with the Greek name Apollyon. It's mentioned in Revelation 9:11 for the angel of the bottomless pit, in Hebrew called Abandon. So this is basically about the end times, is about them wanting us to eat these things. There is a plan that is being codified in the Codex Alimentarius which the WHO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, put together at one point in the early 60s, and that is really the insects and the curse of the Codex Alimentarius that has been developing a desire for really spreading internationally this whole thing that is cool to eat the cicadas, the insects in general, the locust, every kind of insect. At the same time, though, our own food is under attack.
Yeah, what about the cows? What's going on with the milk?
Remember that we have to talk very much. I will say that in 5 minutes we go on Rumble and X, because, of course, for those people who
we got our show taken off last week.
Yeah, well, we get our shows taken off all the time if we start talking about certain things. So we prefer in a few minutes that we all move to Rumble and X, where we are already broadcasting live. If you don't know about our Rumble channel, I can see if I can put the link here.
It's basically a link. I mean, you could subscribe and then you know when the shows are coming up, but you can just click on that link and you'll see the show, just like on YouTube when you don't sign in.
Let me put the link here. This is the link, rumble.com /LeoZagami. The link where you can accede already now. We are broadcasting. There is already people there also in the chat, but you can move and chat over there, let's say, because it's not only about, I know that a lot of the interaction that people have with us is also about interacting with the community of like-minded people that are in the chat.
Let's get ready to rumble, guys.
So let's.
You were gonna play that thing. Oh, well, you can't play it on here.
Well, I would like to play it. We play it another time. Now I have to download it and prepare it. What I was thinking is that as we're gonna be touching on subjects that inevitably will and might produce some problems for us on YouTube, especially when we start talking about the way that they are trying already to warn about the humans becoming infected with the deadly bird flu and all the rest. When we start talking about this kind of subjects, what happens with the YouTube is obviously, boom.
Yeah, and they usually take our whole channel off with no reason, or they tell us why, but it's
take the video off, and at times, unfortunately, they take also the channel. Yeah, it happens also. But we are on Rumble. I wanted to just give you a warning because we are about to move everything, so we can continue the rest of the show without any. But in the meantime, as we have a few people that are following us on YouTube, let's just maybe we can do maybe something else before we move completely on Rumble, because I see that the people still are glued.
You guys, we're going. The show's going to be over.
Now,
go to Rumble.
This big news. Ben Gvir, he's been one of the most controversial figures in the last few months. One of the most controversial figures of the Netanyahu government, one of the most conservative figures of the Netanyahu government, Itamar Ben Gvir, has had a car accident suddenly. Now, he's always described as the far right of the far right. He's the Israel minister, which, of course, it's kind of inspiring more protest and more controversy, especially since the whole conflict in Gaza erupted. But the fact that suddenly he has this car accident is very, very suspicious. For those who don't know, Minister Ben-Gvir is the national security minister, and he was basically involved in an accident earlier today. So we wanted to give you this. Is of course not in bad condition. Fortunately, he managed to survive this accident. But I wanted to give you this information because, of course, it's important. It's important that we keep an eye on what is happening, especially because then an accident like this seems a little bit strange in a moment of great tension in Israel. So we have also a lot of tension here in America. This Hitler Youth, this new Hitler Jugend is basically just like it seems a little bit like Germany in the 1930s. And this also once again demonstrates the fact that George Soros is behind these people, demonstrates once again how wrong were all the people that in the last few months have supported in any way, shape, or form Palestine, Hamas against Israel, and have, of course, taken out the most outrageous conspiracies reminiscent of the usual protocols of the sages of Zion against Israel. But this is the message that Netanyahu has given, and after this we will, of course, move on for the rest of our broadcast on Rumble without having any more limitation, restrictions of any kind. So here we go. Let's see what he said.
Is horrific. Anti-Semitic mobs have taken over leading universities. They call for the annihilation of Israel. They attack Jewish students. They attack Jewish faculty. This is reminiscent of what happened in German universities in the 1930s. It's unconscionable. It has to be stopped. It has to be condemned, and condemned unequivocally. But that's not what happened. The response of several university presidents was shameful. Now, fortunately, state, local, federal officials, many of them have responded differently, but there has to be more. More has to be done. It has to be done not only because they attack Israel, that's bad enough. Not only because they want to kill Jews wherever they are, that's bad enough. It's also, when you listen to them, it's also because they say not only death to Israel, death to the Jews, but death to America. And this tells us that there's an anti-Semitic surge here that has terrible consequences. We see this exponential rise of anti-Semitism throughout America and throughout Western societies as Israel tries to defend itself against genocidal terrorists. Genocidal terrorists who hide behind civilians. Yet it is Israel that is falsely accused of genocide. Israel that is falsely accused of starvation and all sundry war crimes. It's all one big libel. But that's not new. We've seen in history that anti-Semitic attacks were always preceded by vilification and slander. Lies that were cast against the Jewish people that are unbelievable, yet people believe them. And what is important now is for all of us who are interested and cherish our values and our civilization, to stand up together and to say enough is enough. We have to stop anti-Semitism because anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine. It always precedes larger conflagrations that engulf the entire world. So I ask all of you, Jews and non-Jews alike, who are concerned with our common future and our common values, to do one thing. Stand up, speak up, be counted. Stop anti-Semitism now.
Now, you can, of course, agree or disagree with Netanyahu. Some people, of course, here point out in the chat, they killed the volunteer KitchenAid workers. Guys, first of all, let's see what has happened here. They started it on the 7th of October. It wasn't Israel, though, of course, there were probably some corrupt people in Israel who let it happen. That's another thing. But to understand what's going on in the Middle East, you have to really know the history of the secret societies of the Middle East, of Islam, and the way that the Illuminati have been working hand in hand with Islam for almost 1,000 years. And also how all this has generated a never-ending spiral of hate. It's too simplistic to stand on one side or the other without really knowing what's happening here. Now, for example, the fact that British soldiers will be entering Gaza to help the aid workers, when we absolutely know who is responsible for this. From the Balfour Declaration to the Sykes-Picot Agreement that preceded it, we know that the main country responsible for this mess was, of course, Great Britain, the United Kingdom. So
that's why we separated from them.
Yeah, of course. So I think that it's very important to understand all the nuances of the thing. It's very simplistic to say that, of course, Netanyahu is a leader that is also has some problems, but on the other side, his opposition is made of libtards, socialists, communists, people who are supporting the Palestine cause and Hamas in the universities are the people financed by George Soros, who is a Jew, but he's a Sabbatean Frankist Jew. So before we talk too much and we get in trouble, let's move all to Rumble, guys.
See you over there.
See you in a few minutes in Rumble, our platform. Also X, we are also transmitting live on X, not on YouTube for the second part of the show. Too risky to stay here. We might
YouTube.
See you later, YouTube.
Hasta la vista.
Hasta la vista, YouTube. Yeah. Okay, I think that for today I chose a great break that might be interesting as we're abandoning the winter, Vivaldi's winter.